Good, happy Wednesday morning, July 14, 2021. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Wednesday morning edition of The Morning Show with Riley King. It's time to rise and shine and grab that good cup of coffee. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this Wednesday morning edition of The Morning Show with Riley King, where we have a little bit of everything for you in this program. So let's get started and begin right now. First step, Cuban Americans protest across the U.S. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Enjoy presentations with Canva.
After historic protests tonight, news on demonstrators now arrested in Cuba, social media apps being blocked, and what we're now seeing in South Florida tonight. Here's ABC's Victor Kendo.
Tonight, Miami's Cuban-American community taking to the streets for a third day in a row, blocking a major highway for hours, demanding the U.S. take action in support of the demonstrators in Cuba. Security forces cracking down on protesters and the press on the island just yesterday. Officers in riot gear lining the streets, taking people into patrol cars. But today, Havana, quiet. Soldiers still on the streets. A U.S.-based legal aid organization confirming more than 100 have been arrested, and while some have been released, the whereabouts of many still unknown. Ever since they took part in the largest series of demonstrations to hit Cuba in a generation. Protesters calling for freedom as food and medicine shortages devastate the island. With pressure mounting on the Biden administration, the government is reviewing its Cuba policy, but says they have no immediate decision or change on that. The Cuban exile community once again showing their support here in Little Havana. There are reports out of Cuba that Raul Castro has come out of retirement in the wake of the massive demonstrations. He is joining in on meetings and once again pointing the finger at the United States for their economic crisis. David?
Victor Kendo there in South Florida tonight.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the...
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Biden responds to Texas GOP push to pass new voting limits. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
The storm brewing over voting rights across this country. President Biden late today in Philadelphia, the birthplace of American democracy, blasting what he calls attacks on voting rights. Republican-led efforts in more than 16 states across the country. The president and that warning, calling it the most significant test of our democracy since the Civil War, saying these new laws aim to limit whether or not your vote counts at all, and calling out continuing efforts to discredit the 2020 election, saying the big lie is just that, a big lie. Tonight, the governor of Texas saying he plans to arrest the Democratic lawmakers who left his state for Washington in an effort to block a vote in Texas that they say will restrict access. Those lawmakers asking Congress to act to protect voting rights in their state and across this country. So where is this all headed? And bottom line tonight, do Democrats, does the president have the votes he needs in the Senate to do anything about this? ABC's Rachel Scott leading us off from the Hill tonight.
Today, President Biden traveling to the birthplace of American democracy to fight back against the Republican effort to restrict voting rights, calling it the most dangerous threat to voting in our history.
There's an unfolding assault taking place in America today, an attempt to suppress and subvert the right to vote, fair and free election. An assault on democracy, an assault on liberty, an assault on who we are.
The president saying new laws in more than 16 states are part of a painful pattern aimed at denying minorities and women the right to vote.
21st century Jim Crow assault is real. It's unrelenting. We're going to challenge it vigorously.
Biden attacking Republicans for leaning on lies that the 2020 election was riddled with fraud.
No other election has ever been held under such scrutiny, such high standards. The big lie is just that, a big lie. Have you no shame?
The president also taking aim at his predecessor.
In America, if you lose, you accept the results. You don't call facts fake and then try to bring down the American experiment just because you're unhappy. That's not statesmanship. That's selfishness.
It comes as more than 50 Democrats from Texas have fled the state in an effort to block a vote on new voting restrictions.
We are not going to buckle to the big lie in the state of Texas.
The Republican governor vowing they won't get away with it.
As soon as they come back in the state of Texas, they will be arrested.
The Texas Democrats joining the president's call for new laws to protect voting rights. Biden urging Americans not to give up.
No matter what, you can never stop the American people from voting. They will decide.
So let's get right to Rachel Scott live up on the Hill tonight. And Rachel, we heard his speech today, President Biden pushing for new federal voting rights laws. Bottom line, though, at this point, the Senate, Democrats don't have enough votes from Republicans really to get anywhere on this.
Yes, David, and that is the challenge for Democrats. They need the support of at least 10 Republicans in order to get that legislation passed. Right now, they do not have any. They can change the Senate rules, eliminate the filibuster. That would allow them to pass that legislation on their own. But right now, key moderates in the party are not on board. David?
Rachel Scott leading us off tonight. Rachel, thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. In climbing inflation, temporary or long-term problem. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
That face that is usually covered by her phone has finally made an appearance. That face.
And now to inflation in the U.S. Almost everything that we want to buy, from food to gas and cars and coffee, is costing us more. New Labor Department data shows that consumer prices rose 0.9% last month, and they're up 5.4% from a year ago. These are the largest increases since the Great Recession of 2008. To help break it all down, we're joined by ABC's Chief Business and Economics correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis. Becky, thanks so much for coming on the show. Tell us, what's driving these price hikes, and would you say that this has affected nearly all Americans?
Well, it is affecting all Americans, Lindsay, because it is widespread. Used car prices up 10.5%, beef prices up 4.5%, and that's just month over month between May and June. And what's driving the increase in prices is a handful of factors. First of all, when it comes to cars, there is a global chip shortage. That's been in play for some time now, and what it means is we're producing fewer cars as a result. So if you're on the market for a car, a used car, or even a rental car, that global chip shortage is helping to drive that up. Rental cars, by the way, during the pandemic, a lot of the rental car makers got rid of some of their fleets. They didn't know that they would be needing them in the summer where everyone suddenly wants to travel. So you have this combination, Lindsay, of problems that happened to supplies during the pandemic. Fewer supplies were created, and now you have this massive demand from consumers as everybody wants to get out and play and enjoy the summer because we're all coming out of hibernation finally, Lindsay.
And the White House and the Fed believe that this inflation is temporary, but some economists fear that this could be longer lasting.
This is a really divided question right now. You have the White House, the Treasury Secretary, the Federal Reserve Chair all believing that this is temporary, that these prices will moderate and become more normalized towards the end of this year, whereas some others, like the former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, have issued warnings that this could be more of a sign of hyperinflation. Now, here's the reality. We don't know what will happen to prices 5 weeks from now or 5 months from now, but what we have seen are some really interesting things happen to prices already. Lumber prices, copper prices, they shot up coming out of the pandemic because more people wanted to build homes and more construction was happening. Well, those prices have moderated, and sometimes, Lindsay, the cure for high prices is high prices seize on the opportunity. If you build or create lumber, suddenly you want to make more of it when the prices go up. And if you're a buyer of lumber, you might not want to buy as much of it as prices are higher. You're going to wait until they come down, and that is what ends up creating the better mix for prices and sending prices lower. Now, in general, what we're looking for is 2% inflation. 5.4% is more than double that, so they do need to come down substantially to be more of what we would consider normal and good for the economy.
So sometimes the cure for higher prices is higher prices. Makes sense. And lastly, the U.S. economy moving again, and some Americans are getting raises. So is inflation just the flip side of economic growth, or could this be a sign of trouble ahead?
It could be a sign of trouble. We still don't know. And again, on that divided issue, Lindsay, you're going to have the economists who say it is a sign of trouble and others who say it's a sign of an economy coming out of a pandemic. When you go from zero to something, you're going to see greater inflation. That is why the last time we saw numbers like these was coming out of 2008 and the Great Recession. The issue right now for people who are getting bonuses and raises and attracted to this jobs market, which is frankly red hot if you're an employee looking for work, is that when you see prices go up by that amount, suddenly that extra paycheck doesn't stretch as far. In fact, your bonus or your raise might end up being a moot point when you have to pay 10.5% more to own a used car month over month, Lindsay.
Rebecca Jarvis, always good to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. U.S. stock features little changed after major averages pull back from records. U.S. stock index features were little change in early morning trading on Wednesday after the major averages finished Tuesday. Regular trading in the red, weighed down by inflation fears. And let's switch gears now, and let's go into weather. And here is a look at the weather across the U.S. for all of you this Wednesday morning. As you can see, is all dry around Boston, Maine, New York, all along the East Coast. It's nice and dry along here, and a little bit of rain down by Florida. And then there's some rain over here. And then a little bit of rain showers over here and over here as well. Otherwise, it's mostly dry in the United States, in the middle here, and over here as well. And that is a look at your weather across the United States for today. Happy Wednesday. And let's switch gears now. And let's take a look at the countdown to Tokyo Olympics as new state of emergency goes into effect. Let's take a look at that right now.
To the Tokyo Olympics. The games set to begin in just 10 days, and with the city under a new COVID state of emergency, it's going to be an Olympics like no other. James Longman is there in Tokyo. He has details. He is under quarantine in his hotel room. Good morning, James.
Yeah, good morning, Robin, or should I say evening. A very different Olympics, that is for sure. Just 10 days to go until the opening ceremony. The chair of the IOC is actually here in Tokyo, and he said that Tokyo was the best prepared city ever to host an Olympics. I think a lot of people will disagree with that, given that the COVID Delta variant is still surging here, and so few people have received a vaccine.
It was hoped pushing Tokyo's Olympics back a year would give Japan enough time to get past the pandemic. But with the opening ceremony now less than 2 weeks away, that hasn't happened. Nothing about these games will be normal. The opening ceremony is usually packed with thousands of gold medal hopefuls proudly marching from every corner of the earth, likely paired way back, and 30 minutes longer to allow for social distancing. A massive testing and quarantining process is in place. Athletes must arrive at the Olympic Village in Japan's capital 5 days before their sports start, and they have to leave the country 48 hours after they've been eliminated or their event ends, whatever comes first. And masks are mandatory at all times except when competing.
They have to kind of pretend they're back in 2020, dealing with those very rigid rules that they lived by in 2020, even though now, of course, it's the summer of 2021.
Going ahead with the Games has been controversial. Japan's COVID numbers are far lower than most other countries, but they're rising, and the Delta variant accounts for 34% of cases in the Tokyo region. That's expected to be 75% by the end of July. And crucially, only about 16% of people have received a vaccine. There's big local opposition to these events happening at all. Olympic organisers have implemented strict protocols to keep athletes safe and the Games running smoothly, like daily testing and tracking apps to monitor movement.
No high fives, no handshakes, no cheering, no yelling. It is going to be a very Spartan existence.
And it's not just the athletes locking down. Spectators will be banned from nearly every event, including parents of Olympians, meaning none of that Olympic drama, like these infamous scenes from US gymnast Ali Raisman. And even for journalists covering the Games, getting into the country is not easy.
The amount of paperwork you need to get into Japan is unbelievable. And now I'm waiting for the results of a coronavirus test, which I just took. That will appear here, and then I will be summoned to a window, and then I've got to go through immigration.
Now, it's not just the paperwork. I am in total isolation here, guys. Let me show you where I am. I'm in my hotel room. I'm not allowed to leave for 3 days. Bear with me. And this is it. This is my little setup. I'm basically stuck here. I have 3 days here, then I've got 11 days being basically restricted in Tokyo. I'm not allowed to go into the city itself. Our phones have loads of apps on them which restrict all our movement. Apologies, I'm definitely not a cameraman. I'm just going to move that back there. And then I've got loads of tests. So I've got to get tests day in, day out. This is not like anything we've seen before, and the athletes all have to do this as well. It's not just me.
But James, you do have a great view. I mean, nice room.
Right? It's not the Eiffel Tower. It is Tokyo, I promise. I'm in Tokyo.
But please stay safe.
Time for him to get back to bed.
Yeah. Well, hey there, GMA fans. Rob.
Okay, and there you go. And let's take a look at this. How record-breaking Brazilian drought is affecting coffee prices. Who loves coffee? As you think about your next cup of joe, think about those prices as well. Take a look.
It's been here since December. You left him that mug of Dunkin' with his cookies that night.
There's no doubt.
Consumer alert. That cup of coffee you're drinking this morning may be getting more expensive. Rebecca Jarvis is here to tell us what's behind the surge. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Robin. Yeah, and I'm sorry to share this news as you're enjoying your morning ritual, but coffee prices have spiked 18% in just the last 3 months, and there are really 3 key reasons here. First of all, a drought in Brazil, the world's largest producer of coffee beans. If you see Arabica written on the side of your beans, there's a good shot they came from Brazil. But this year, farmers there say they are expecting the worst harvest in 20 years. The second issue is shipping costs. They have risen around the globe in light of the pandemic, and even though Colombia and Vietnam have coffee beans, the shipping costs make them more expensive and in some cases impossible to even get here to the United States. Finally, we're drinking more coffee. We drank a lot of it in the pandemic at home. As cafes are reopening, people want to be social again. They're going out. That sends demand up, and in turn, prices are rising. Now, Where you might not have yet seen the price increases are at grocery stores because the roasters have tried to not increase prices yet. You might have seen it already at your grocery store. Where you have seen it very likely is at your local coffee shop, where prices are now $4.50 on average. That is up from $3.90 5 years ago. But you can save money on this, Robin. That's the good news. First of all, brewing at home, we all know this. It saves money about $2,000 a year if you brew at home. You can make the leftover remaining coffee into ice cubes. Put it in the freezer. That's great for your iced coffee. Set an allowance on your coffee budget. And finally, take advantage of those loyalty programs at your local coffee shop. Oftentimes, you'll get a discount there and enjoy your morning ritual with a little less cost. Robin?
All great suggestions as always. Thank you, Rebecca.
I got one more suggestion. Order the coffee and always leave your wallet when you're with your friend.
Oh!
All right, there we go.
Well, hey there, GMA fans.
Okay, there you go. And let's switch gears now and go into entertainment news. In entertainment news, 2021 Primetime Emmy nominations. See who received the most nominations. Let's take a look at that right now.
Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah, that last name is tricky. Ted Lasso picked up a total of 20 nominations, becoming the most nominated freshman comedy series in TV history. Other big Emmy news?
If I wasn't under the restraints that I'm under right now, I feel so liberated.
Framing Britney Spears, which brought the Free Britney movement back into the headlines, earned 2 Emmy nominations, including Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Special.
I have mixed feelings, actually, because Britney is right in the middle of this court battle, so it's an odd feeling.
We spoke to director Samantha Stark about the timing of it all. Last month, Britney appeared in court and alleged the conservatorship and her father, Jamie, were abusive, making clear she wants out.
What was your reaction as you listened to Britney's testimony?
To me, the idea that Britney said, I'm being abused, I'm being trafficked, and there wasn't an immediate kill switch shows like a huge flaw in the system to me.
Tomorrow will be another major court hearing in Britney's battle for freedom. Other headline-making programs getting nominations.
The first season, I had a major crush on Jen.
It just makes my heart happy seeing y'all together.
First question, like, how do you feel? I was like, and then started crying.
HBO Max's Friends, The Reunion was nominated for Outstanding Variety Special.
Concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What?
Oprah was nominated for Outstanding Hosted Nonfiction Series or Special for the Bombshell CBS Primetime Special, which sent shockwaves around the world and fractured the royal family.
Do you all watch The Crown? You watch some of that?
Watch some of it.
Well, The Crown, which centered around the marriage downfall of Harry's parents, Prince Charles and the late Princess Diana, tied The Mandalorian for most Emmy nominations this year, each receiving 24. And the Duke of Hastings may have left Bridgerton, but voters gave Regé-Jean Page a surprise parting gift, his first Emmy nomination for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series.
I'm sure you're going to be surprised.
And check out the reaction of this first-time nominee.
Kaley Cuoco.
The flight attendants Kaley Cuoco and Hack star Jean Smart, a double nominee with her supporting role in Mayor of Easttown, are the ones to beat in the lead actress comedy category.
What a year,
NBC's This Is Us was the only scripted network show to score 6 nominations, including acting nods for Sterling K. Brown and Chris Sullivan.
The texts have been flying. Sterling and I have exchanged congratulations. The whole cast is excited to be nominated for Best Drama. We're coming for you, Netflix. You better look out.
One major snub? No nomination for Nicole Kidman in The Undoing. The Emmys will air live Sunday, September 19th on CBS. Winners will take the stage in front of an in-person audience with first-time host Cedric the Entertainer.
Yeah, baby, I'm about to be hosting the Emmys.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report, and that does it for this Wednesday morning edition of The Morning Show with Riley King. Thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Goodbye.